so this is the floorboard, and there are the interior sides for the cockpit. The floorboard has a piece of cardboard under it, and the rest of these are just cut out, and you can see the wood grain effect is really nice. I really like it. It looks like real wood. It's pretty cool. Makes your job pretty easy. Now along these there are some internal pieces, these vertical slots or slats, and those are cut out individually. You can leave them as is. They're well colored, but I think it's nice to make them a little more three-dimensional. So they do have an option in the kit to cut those slats out, which I did. Cut them out, colored the edges with my little brown marker, and then just put them in individually, like so. They go all the way down the side, on both sides. I'm just showing you how you just carefully put it in there with a little bit of glue. Make sure it sticks. Get off the excess glue. Again, sometimes it doesn't matter because the glue dries clear, but make it as neat as you can. And then you just sort of keep doing that, putting a little glue down, and I grab with a knife and stick it in there. So I just speed this up because it's just more of the same all the way down the line. Then on one side there's a piece of metal. I don't know what it's for, but it goes along that side. So that piece is cut out as well, colored on the edges, and then slid in to place. And surprisingly, it doesn't matter that it's going over some of the wooden slats. It fits fine. It doesn't look silly. It doesn't look like it's a piece of spaghetti. Then I started putting in the floor, and you can see that dark gray piece gives you a really good alignment point for putting this piece in. So that's the rear section. So put that in. I make sure it's square with my little square. And on the sides, in the rear, that's going to be a thing that's going to basically be a seat holder. And here it is bent over and colored. What I did do, and this isn't in the kit, I cut out little notches on either end to go over where there's a slat. I don't know if that's what you're supposed to do, but that's what I did, and it seemed to work. So that's where it's going to go when it's time to do that. So I continued to start to put on the sides. And so I'm just putting some glue on there. The side has another markation, a dark line that shows where you're supposed to put it. Lines up perfectly. The slats don't go too far. I mean, they make a nice positive kind of connection. So it looks really good. Make sure it's even. Make sure it dries straight. And put the other side on the same. Then this seat piece just sort of gets dropped in there. I don't show doing it, but that's what you end up doing. Now, front cockpit has a spot there for some shelves, and then that's where some instruments go in that black line. There are the front of the instruments, and there's the instrument box, and then there's the little shelf that goes in the other side. So we're going to make those next. So here's the instrument box cut out and colored on the edges, and then I'm adding some glue to it to squeeze it together and make it into a nice little box, which, again, this glue is very forgiving, so you can glue things together even if they're not perfect. Take a little extra out of there. Then I put some glue on the edges, and then just make sure I have it oriented correctly. The instruments go on the top, and there's some switches that go underneath them. And that just goes right over where that black place is. That arrow is talking about the other piece. That's showing where the shelves go for the over on the side. Anyway, that goes on nicely, and there's this little box that I think are your instruments. There's only 3 of them, but they're there, 1, 2, 3. And now what I wanted to do was over those, just showing you that's where it's going to fit. It just test fitting, it fits really nice. And it's going to look pretty cool. I'm going to put some more cockpit details in there. It's going to look really nice when it's done and visible, so it's worth it taking the time. Now the front face goes over top, and I've cut out the holes for the instruments, and I'm just showing you how I did it. Any tool is the right tool, and you cut out your holes, and there you go. Now I cut that piece out, colored the edges all the way around, and also colored the interior where the little instruments are. And then I needed a piece of plastic, clear plastic. I just used the packaging from the laser cut parts, and I put some white glue around the edge, and then just drop that piece right on there. It doesn't need to be perfect because it's just you just want it to cover the holes, which it does. You can see it's glowing a little bit in there, and you can see it looks like glass, which always looks cool. Then put a little glue on the instrument box and carefully drop the instrument over top. And you can see the instruments underneath and the little dials and stuff. It looks really cool. Now this piece is the shelf that goes on the other side. Now it's got this, it's easy to cut out, but it's got this front piece. It took a while to figure out. What you do is you basically, it looks like a fan fold, and then you squeeze it together, and it's going to become the front of the shelf. And so that'll become clear when you get it all together. Now you put some glue on the sides and put the sides on there. Once the sides are on, you then have to cover that white part, and you do that with one of the pieces that's in the plan, in the parts, and it just covers the edges. So you cover that on both edges. You see it down on the floor there. Then this piece is the middle shelf. So you got to put those two pieces together because, of course, you want it to look like wood on both sides. Get that together. And then I decided to put the whole shelf in first. And again, it goes right where those little black lines. It's really easy to tell where it's supposed to go. So you can align it, make it nice. Make sure it's straight. You can get rid of any excess glue, which is what I'm doing here with the knife blade. And just make sure that it's as straight as you can get it. Then I put in this shelf because it has to go up against the back anyway. And I thought I'll just stick it in like this. If I need to trim it, I could. Then there was a piece underneath the front shelf that to me was white, so I hit that with a little marker. And here I am test fitting, and there's the shelf and the instruments. And that's the way the cockpit tub is going to look. And I have to say, again, it's great because it's really cool looking, and it's going to be very, very visible, much like the engine and stuff. I think it looks awesome. Now, this little compass. I've already made the little cylinder of the compass. That's not hard. Then I punched out a ring. So there's multiple pieces where there's a ring in the instrument itself. I put a little piece of clear plastic again on that ring. And then here I'm cutting off the edges to get it tight around the edge of the circle of the bezel. That worked out. Then the actual compass, I put some glue on the very edges. It doesn't have to be, stay on there for the apocalypse. Just has to be enough to put the piece of glass in the bezel over top. Make sure it's even and straight. Then glue it on to the base, which is easy, simple. Put that on, make sure again it's straight. And then there's a spot in the middle of the cockpit by the pilot, between his legs. I think it's a dead center. Where that goes, and there it is. So there's the basic interior. There's a lot more little things that need to go in there. A couple pulleys for control wires, and then a whole joystick situation. But again, just to show you, not much work, and you end up with a nice boxy thing, but it looks appropriately busy, and it would have been relatively simple. I think it's really cool. I don't know what goes in those little shells. Maybe parabellum ammunition? We'll see.